So today, special guests, the two brothers from Miami. How are you, my friends?
How you doing, man? We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming on. I mean, like we said before, you are from Italian origins, so I'm somehow Italian and I'm Greek. So it's an honor to talk with you guys.
Likewise, man. Thanks.
Yeah. So before we go into, let's first do an introduction. Tell us what you do in a few short minutes, and then I'm going to ask you a few things about how you started, how you grow up and stuff.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, we're the founders of Medical Health Institute. It's a health optimization practice in Miami, Florida. And we focus on, optimization, right? So you could either be normal, like we like to say, you could either be normal or you could be exceptional when it comes to your health. And so we strive for being exceptional.
Sounds good.
Targeted nutrition, target supplementation, IV infusions, and anything that, that is regarding your health, your longevity, your growth, and obviously the performance of all the activities that you like to participate in, whether it's, being a husband, a father, whether it's you're in athletics or you just want to be a better professional. So we help you with all those sort of things.
All right. So basically you optimize men. Is it only for men or is it something that can...
It started with men and for a long time it was with men because they're far easier than women's very volatile hormonal system. But, we were forced to open a women's department and it really came as an outgrowth of husbands that had been on therapy for a while. Then they started calling like, hey, I need your help with my wife.
We just didn't have the right physician as well to bring it on board. We wanted, one of the core values that we have is that we like that everybody in our business is on therapy. Otherwise, it's kind of like learning how to drive from a person that knows the manual, but has never gotten behind the wheel. So we found the right doctor who really is an avid reader about hormone optimization, does her part, yoga instructor on the side. So
yeah, and at the same time, there's a relatability issue, right? So, a woman doctor, not that she's, not smart enough or less capable, it has nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that, a woman is not gonna really know what a flaccid erection feels like. And I'm sorry to be so graphic, but she's also not gonna know the difference between what it feels like to have 100 milligrams of testosterone raging through your body versus 300 any more than a man physician is not really going to
night sweat, hot flashes.
He's not going to relate to, what a vaginal dryness feels like, what a period feels like. It's just, there's a relatability issue. And so we feel like women are better served to be taken care of by a female physician who can see and understand things from a female perspective, who understands what they're going through, who is on hormone replacement herself. So she knows all the changes that women are going to feel. And the same thing goes for men.
I love this because, I have to say this because I'm following, the red pill community and I'm following communities in the dating and also in the optimization, the biohacking communities. And I've seen, many people, for example, females coaches, they talk about male health and the other way around. So I see also the men talking about, and I'm always not intrigued, but I'm always baffled because how the fuck can you know how a female feels and optimizes herself?
Well, it's a very tiny disconnect, right? Because I've met many female researchers, for example, who are brilliant, right? And so when it comes to theory, when it comes to studying molecular biology, hands down, great, right? But when it comes to the application portion of it, right, that's where the woman is at a loss and vice versa as a man, because you don't know what a man's body feels like and you'll never know, right? You're only able to know through anecdotal evidence or what you read in a book, right? So that's the issue that we see. Again, it has nothing to do with the woman being not capable or the man not capable. It's just, there's that gap, right? That you need to be in a man's body to understand what an erection feels like, period. There's no ands, if, or buts.
And yeah, we're talking about butts with one T.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just clarifying this. So, guys, before we go on and talk about a little bit about more specific things about the testosterone, about young, old people, I want you to inform us, me and the audience, about your past. We had a talk offline, and you talked a little bit about adrenaline and doing things. And I think I always love to hear a little bit about the history, about the guys, about the people, about the human, you know. So how did you start before as children? Where do you come from? What's your life experience in a short, 5 to 10 minutes most?
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. So, I mean, we're both born in Venezuela to an Argentinian father and a Venezuelan mother. And from a very early age, we were exposed to athletics. Our father was big on us doing athletics. So, the first kind of exposure that we have at the early age of 3, I think he was 2 when he started, was skiing and snowboarding in the mountains. And so, we were lucky enough that our parents were people of means that were able to get us coaches and put us into schools that taught us how to ski. And so we really developed that skill. And it was a really beautiful gift because, not only do you have the athletic part, right, but you also have the exposure to the environment, right? Being in the mountains and connecting to nature. And so, you adopt a lot of philosophies from there as well. And then from there on, it just kind of took a life of its own. We began surfing and, all these kind of adrenaline-packed sports started to happen. We started competing. I think Miguel was sponsored by a company at an early age. I competed in the Argentinian team. And so that kind of led to a passion for extreme sports.
I think the fun part about the extreme sport, which by the way, I was the first snowboarder in Argentina, Bariloche, at like 9 years of age, when snowboarding had just come out, freaking 20 something years ago. I personally became addicted to the feeling of adrenaline, which is that fear factor of, oh my God, I can actually get injured here, or I can actually lose my life in this. So that life and death experience is what really truly brings you to the present moment, where you stop thinking about anything else and you're in that focus, what we call flow state. Right. Wizard Jason Silva calls it from the book Stealing My Fire, STIR, which means selfless, timeless, effortless, and richness information. When you're in that flow, when you're in that moment, when you're inside a tube of a wave and all you're thinking about is, I need to come out of this.
I need to make it out.
Is the most orgasmic sensation you can feel, to be that alive. And I think that's where my adrenaline needs come from to connect with that presence.
And of course, as brothers, we always had this like kind of friendly competition going on, who would do better at certain things. So, that led to wakeboarding competitions and wake surfing and all this stuff, right? So we've always lived a very active athletic lifestyle. And then I think that the next stage after that was getting exposed to weight training, right? I was exposed to it at the early age of 18. I was playing football in high school, and one of our football coaches was an ex-bodybuilder. So he taught me the philosophy of weight training and why it's not just about lifting weights. And Miguel was exposed to it at an early age as well. And that just kind of became part of our life, right? That's something that we shared together. We would, we were sort of fitness freaks in a very healthy way. So we were always very conscious about not only our health, the foods that we were eating. I got exposed to a lot of nutrition coaches early on. I learned the difference between processed foods and whole foods at a very early age. And then that just kind of snowballed, right? We became exposed to the value of supplementation and high grade supplementation. And so that's kind of where it started. And then, Michael, unfortunately, at the age of 22, had an experience with ED that kind of became the brainchild of the operation. Maybe you can, I'll let him tell the story.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do you want to share, Michael, your story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know if you had another question, but I
have a lot of questions, but after that.
So I experienced CD at the age of 22, and that led me into, trying different lifestyle modifications, from chiropractic to acupuncture to different dietary lifestyle habits, and nothing seemed to work until all the data that I looked at pointed at testosterone. But I was early in the stage. I was scared about the infertility and all the side effects that apparently came with it. When that dosing it correctly. So I just quit. I turned 30. I said, let's do it. And I never turned back from there. You know, I regained my sexual function besides many other things, you know, feeling like $1 million, feeling always energetic, driven, focused. I mean, we get up at 7 a.m. and we're up and running sometimes till 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And
not because we have to, but because we want to, right?
Yeah.
We just like it. And just to kind of,
we have a major goal.
Just to kind of echo what Miguel was saying, I think, you know, it was the tragedy of being 22 years old. You're supposed to be at the peak of your prime, right? Sexually speaking. And, you know, then you have culture that influences you, or, you know, your friends, your homies are talking about their, you know, hot and steamy experiences. And you're thinking like, oh my God, my stuff doesn't even work, right?
Yeah.
So it was that tragic moment. And many, you know, I think Miguel is being nice about it, but many really uncomfortable, really embarrassing situations that pain drove him to do a lot of research into his particular situation, and then finding the fix and realizing at that moment, I'm not the only one that has this. Oh my goodness. So it was, that sort of became the brainchild to, hey, we can really do something here, because there's so many people that are not even allowed the space to actually talk about it, right? To feel comfortable about talking about it with somebody. Because, you know, imagine, I mean, talking to another guy who you don't know about, you know, not being able to get an erection. I mean, virility is second nature to us. So it's kind of like you're losing your power when you're talking to somebody about this. And we're here to tell you that if there's anybody listening that has this, that's wrong. That if you have this condition, you know, erectile dysfunction is not just about performance. It's not just about having fun in the bedroom. It's actually now linked to a lot of different really nasty potential diseases that can come at an early age, like diabetes, heart disease, all these things that you can reverse if you catch it early, but you have to have the ability to be able to talk about it.
No, and one thing that caused it as well was I was prescribed Adderall, which is basically a derivative of cocaine. It's amphetamine. And I was prescribed really high doses of this, which that led to high blood pressure.
Tell him it was I was prescribed as well as him, 60 milligrams of Adderall per day by an actual PCP.
Yeah, I was
who said that this was a good idea. I was 18 years old smoking a pack of Marlboro mediums a day.
Yeah, I would wake up to Adderall, 20-minute drive, light up a cigarette with a Red Bull, and at night, half a bottle of whiskey just to try to turn off my mind, because that drug, you can be physically drained and exhausted, but mentally you're still wired. And I know that a lot of the issue that I had with ED came from that aspect, because, you know, it causes ED, it causes dry mouth. Again, it's a really, really strong drug.
Yeah.
And it's a contributor to what caused the ED. So that's how kind of the alternative medicine outside of the traditional model came about us starting this company.
Yeah, it's an inspiring story. And
taking responsibilities into your own hand, basically.
Yes.
That's what it was.
No, and you know what? It's owning up to it, saying, hey, it's happening. It's happening, and I have to do something about it. And you know what? There are companies out there, there's people out there that I'm not alone on this, and there has to be somebody that I got to be able to talk about this too.
You know, guys, that's why I really like what you do, because I want to see more of you here in Greece, more of you here in Europe, because I myself, I relate to Michael, because I had a similar experience when I was 24. You know, I was dating, I was a virgin since until I was 19. Then, you know, I got myself
late bloomer, huh?
Very late. Yeah. I was,
which is not bad, by the way. Which is not bad, by the way.
I'm sure. Yes.
It's a double standard, right? That
I know. Who cares?
It's too late for a guy.
Yeah. No, really, I was too shy. You know, I had my.
My question is, was it memorable? No,
you answered enough.
You get it out of necessity.
Let me just say that it was very short.
Okay. All right.
And the girl
that's another epidemic.
Yes.
Premature.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about it. Yeah, I'm going to ask you about it. But anyways, I had a few girls, and then I went to, I was 24, and I had my dating game a little bit tighter. So I was able to go out with a very sexy girl. And I remember, I was a little bit stressed, it was my first time with a very beautiful woman, but it wasn't justified to cause an ED. So, and then I went with her. I was in my car, I remember. And, we were dating, and then we went to my car. We found a nice view up here in Athens. And I remember, I was so excited psychologically. I was, fuck, yeah. So it was, it was like a success, like getting $1 million first.
The light bulb downstairs wasn't turning on. Let me guess.
Yeah. I was excited, but the guy down there wasn't responding, and it was. I have to say, I felt humiliated.
No, not even that. I can imagine you can relate to. You're so excited. I'm about to score. Oh my God, this is perfect. But then you're like, wait, well, hold on. And as you might be making out or doing things. You're like, wait, hold on, but what's going on? Like, and now you're putting pressure, and all of a sudden, it's now it becomes a vicious cycle. It actually shrinks even more because now you're under stress, and that stress causes you to have even more of an ED experience. And now you're traumatized. Right. Now, when you go have sex the next time, you're like, oh my God, and it becomes, am I going to experience that awful experience again?
It becomes an anchor. Yeah. Right. It becomes a negative anchor. Or now it's permanently placed in your mind. So now anytime that there's something even similar to that experience, you start thinking about it. Oh, but it could happen again, right?
Exactly. And I had exactly what you said.
Vicious dynamic.
Yes, exactly what you say, guys. I had a similar experience with that girl. I took. I remember she said, "Okay, it's fine." It wasn't fine, but we didn't have sex at that point, and I was very embarrassed. And I went home, and I was almost tearing up because it's like having a chance on something and fucking it all up. And then the next time I went with her, I took Viagra. So I remember going to the pharmacy.
How much? 50 milligrams, 100?
No, I think 30-25 is the smallest dose.
A lower dose.
And it kind of worked. It wasn't exactly as I would love to be. So I had headaches and I had a few rashes and stuff. But it kind of
bloodshot eyes.
Yes.
Were your eyes red? Yeah.
Yes. It was like, but it kind of worked. From then on, it was on and off, and we broke up with that girl, and I think the sex, my sex was mediocre. So, and I think I got ED before her, but with her, I got traumatized, like you said. So after her, it still is sometimes. I had the same feeling, like, okay, I'm fucked. There's a possibility, there's a chance that I might not perform today, and that's going to be fuck all. And
then because of that, you start pushing away your partner, right?
Let me give you a good insider, one that we didn't touch on the other interview that we had. This is a little fun fact for your men listeners, and something that needs to be considered that most people don't. By the end of the day, usually when we test blood, we test it in the morning because that's typically when your levels it's like a reset. Your hormonal levels are at their highest. By the end of the day, around 6:00 p.m., your testosterone levels have slashed literally by 50% or more. Now, take into consideration, you're out and about. I assume this was after 12 p.m., midnight. You're probably drinking, which drinking dilutes the blood, meaning the viscosity of the blood. So when blood goes to the penis, it's actually draining out. So it's even harder to maintain an erection. Add to the concoction, maybe some cocaine or some drugs, which is very pervasive in the United States. I don't know how it is over there. But when you start adding Adderall or stimulants, of course, you're going to be bound to have some type of ED experience. Yeah. And what happens is they link to it. Oh, I have erectile dysfunction. No, maybe you should think you were drinking alcohol, you were doing drugs, and this is the reason you had that experience. But try that in the morning when you woke up fresh without drinking, you might have a different experience. So what I'm saying, men typically are targeting women or trying to score after midnight when they've had a couple of drinks, and worst case scenario, a couple of stimulants aside from drinking, which is going to exacerbate the issue. Yeah. So not necessarily do you have ED, but you're approaching it from a place or where you have no fundamentals in order to respond well. But now, as Carlos said, it's anchored in your brain. You label yourself, oh, I have ED.
Right.
You know,
which is funny. The whole alcohol thing is, it's a really funny thing, right? So a lot of guys, you know, and by the way, I'm not judging anybody, because I used to be in this group, right? You drink alcohol to get a little more brave, right? To you know, get your
it inhibits your cognition.
inhibitions diminished. That way you're braver. You can maybe approach a girl or whatever.
You care less.
But then you drink, and you become more brave at approaching. But then when it comes to performing, you got a problem, right? So testosterone fixes all of that. You don't need any of that.
yeah. That's cool. You say that. Of course. By the way, I don't drink alcohol. I never draw. So it wasn't the alcohol probably for me. But I know many guys that are limp because of the alcohol. So I had a few people in my circle when I was in my early 20s that were really, they were discussing with me a few problems in the bed. Because after long nights and drinking lots of whiskey, usually, which is strong. Yes. So I have to ask you now. This is a great opportunity to ask you, what's happening? Is it a myth that modern young men having issues with testosterone? And if it's not, why? What are the causes?
So that's a great question. For a long time, we were scratching our heads. Because, based on the medical research and the medical literature, the standard, right? I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but the standard was that, after the age of around 28 to 30, we lost about 1 to 2% of our testosterone every single year in a condition called andropause, right? And men cannot get away from it.
Which is a pause in your androgen hormones, like not just testosterone, but DHEA, pregnenolone, and different pathways on.
Right. Which is unavoidable, right? It's just like women are not going to be able to skip menopause. Men are not going to be able to skip out on andropause. They just work differently. Menopause is like they fall off a cliff. They lose 95% in 5 years. Whereas we men, we go in a step down process. So we don't notice until 10, 20 years have passed and we've lost 30% that we're like, something has changed. So it's kind of like that analogy where if you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump out, right? Yeah. But if you put it in and turn the heat up slowly, it'll boil to death. So all of the medical literature was saying that between the ages of 28 to 30, men start to lose about 1 to 2%, right? But we started seeing guys and
much greater.
It first started with the early 30s, like mid to early 30s, 35 and under. And then it was like 32 and under. And then it started with 28, 27. So now we have 22-year-olds calling. I mean, we don't like to treat anybody under 28 because here in this country, under the eyes of the FDA, it looks like we're promoting some kind of enhancement kind of protocol. But I think it's about to change, because if for anybody of your viewers, if they really want to gain an answer to the why this is happening, I would highly encourage them to read the book Countdown by Dr. Shauna Swan, phenomenal researcher, PhD from Harvard. She had a landmark 2017 study that kind of changed the narrative about this. And she discovered in 2017 that there was a very strong link between the reduction of fertility rates in men, younger men, by more than 50%. And the cause of it, aside from the fact that we have really bad nutrition with processed foods and because of the Industrial Revolution and all that, but more so because of these, what they call now everywhere chemicals, these endocrine disrupting compounds that are everywhere around us that we cannot escape, that are deeply affecting our endocrine system, specifically speaking for men, testosterone and sperm, right?
Which, by the way, I would recommend your readers. It's called Beat the Microplastic. So basically this app, what you do, you can actually scan the product, right? And it'll tell you if it has microplastics or any endocrine disrupting chemicals, which my wife grabbed it and did it with all her products. And it was like 5 out of 10 products had a bunch of EDCs and microplastics. So it's trying to reduce as much as you can these exposures to these EDCs, which are damaging our biochemistry.
Yeah, and people are not, I think that people think of it like, oh, yeah, that's some kind of, geeky, goopy stuff. No, listen, think about the life of a 30-year-old, right? He wakes up, right? He probably jumps in the shower, uses shampoo, right? Microplastics and EDCs. Soap, microplastics and EDCs. Deodorant, microplastic and EDCs. Toothpaste, microplastic and EDCs. The water that he's drinking, if it's not filtered right, EDCs, right?
And heavy metals. Then he jumps in his car.
No. He has breakfast. He has breakfast or coffee with mold, EDCs, pesticides, all the stuff that's in his food.
Herbicides.
Right? Then he jumps in a car. Perhaps he takes the train or perhaps he takes the bus. He's exposed to environmental toxicity. He goes to his job where he's drinking out of a water bottle, putting his food in a plastic container in the microwave. I mean,
and then you got EMFs, which are electromagnetic fields that are affecting. We have this by EMF harmonized. These little holograms, they basically help to radiate all the electromagnetic fields coming from your phone so they don't interfere with your body.
Think about as a man, where do you put this when you walk out of the house? In your pocket, right? It's sitting right next to your testicles. This stuff, actually, if you read the iPhone manual, it tells you to keep it away from you. So this thing
emits about 3 feet away.
Emits active magnetic radiation to your testicles that affects your fertility.
Hence why we have high rates of prostate and testicular cancer. Women usually in their breast or in their purse, where they have breast cancer, ovarian cancer. It's more related than what people understand.
So to answer your question, short of you living in a different planet, okay? Because I don't care how much you work out. I don't care what kind of foods you eat. I don't care if you live in the Himalayas with your own goats and sleep 14 hours a day and meditate 3. It doesn't matter because you still have planes flying over you and you're inhaling micro doses of the jet fuel. So short of you living in a different planet, these are things that you're not going to be able to escape, that they're constantly around you, bombarding you every single day. Because let's face it, look, I'm not going to give up my phone. I'm not going to give up my computer. It's just not going to happen, right? So these are things that are constantly around us that we cannot avoid. And this is what's happening, this incredible decline. And it's so serious. Most people are like, yeah. I'm going to give you some contrast. Back in 1955, the average testosterone rate in men between 20 years old and 80 years old was 800 to 1200, which means that your average 80-year-old dude was walking around with 800 levels of testosterone. Today, we look at labs every single day. You will be hard pressed to find a 35-year-old with more than 500.
I'm sure about it. I'm sure. And, I'll add my story here too. So I have also data from my own labs. So, and I also will share a story from a grandpa. So first of all, let's talk about me. When I had that issue with a girl, I went on and did some labs. So I wanted to find out my virility, my sperm, etc. So I found a few things. So first of all, I had prostatitis. So I had inflammation of my prostate. So that was fucked up because, I was 24. I mean, I didn't expect something like that. I know prostate cancer, but I always thought that was something for the old people. And after that, the doctor told me also that your sperm, and I have the labs, I think, with me. I will have them on the screen if I find them. So my sperm was like, I couldn't conceive. I couldn't impregnate a woman. So
the volume, motility, and morphology.
Exactly. Yeah. It was fucked up. So it wasn't good. So it was below average, and I was like perplexed because I was 24. That's not 24 that should like to, and the least, of course, the last and the most hurtful thing that I saw in the labs was that my testosterone, and I think it was, what is the total I think it was like shocking. It was like 295 nanograms.
You're like a walking.
And the same thing,
And so,
guys.
you know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
Imagine imagine you talking to your dad or your grandfather, which are a completely different era, right? And you're talking to them about this, and they're telling you, stop being a pussy, be a man, right? Because they're walking around with 4 times the testosterone that you are at 24. Oh, when I was 24, I was unstoppable. That's true. That's true, because you weren't exposed to the daily chemicals that I am now exposed to as a 24-year-old.
Yeah, and I have to add that my brother and my father was like 55, and my brother was 27, something like that, 28, and they had the same levels. So they had 300, all of us. So that was quite interesting. Right. All of us, and at that time we were living together, so all of us.
Wait, you had the same, you and your brother had the same level as your dad?
Exactly. Which is fucked up. And my dad.
And we've seen it many times. We actually seen the sun come out lower.
We've seen the sun lower. And I'm talking about a 60-year-old dad and a 20-year-old.
Right. And he's like, hey, do you mind running labs on my son to just see where he's at? And sure enough, they're that low. Which we have a doctor here that we recommend him to, a Harvard graduate, Dr. Ramasamy, for all the younger individuals that we don't treat.
Yeah, again, because if we get guys that are under 28 years old, our doctor could actually get in trouble for helping them, because the FDA still has this old mentality. What is a 26-year-old on testosterone for, right? So it's almost like there's no medical necessity for you to be on testosterone. So now it looks like we're doing it for performance enhancement, but we get these 24, 25, 26-year-olds calling us desperate. Like, dude, I got no sex drive. I got no energy. What the hell is going on? I'm 26. I got all this fat on my midsection. I can't burn.
And it's not just the fat, and correct me if I'm wrong, but now I will also share this one for you. Now I'm 30, right? My brother is 33. Both of us, we still have issues with erectile dysfunction, and I'm guessing, and I'm going to do a few labs on September, I'm guessing I'm not very high in testosterone, even though I'm more muscular than I have ever been, even though I'm taking care of my nutrition, low carb stuff, keto, clean diet, all that stuff. My sleep is optimized as much as I can, of course, for now, but I'm taking care of all that shit. And yet my libido is like, I'm feeling right now, like I'm talking to you, I'm not feeling like a man, to be honest.
Again, that's why I said, I don't care if you grow your own food. I don't care if you have your own animals, which most people don't. I don't care how much sleep you're getting. If your testosterone is not replenished to a healthy level, it's not going to be working right, man.
And it's not even, forget about the total testosterone.
Forget about the total.
Testosterone is irrelevant. It's really the free testosterone, because you calculate free testosterone is the deduction of the bound testosterone through sexual hormone globulin. There's actually calculators you can find online that you can grab your total testosterone, your sexual hormone globulin, and calculate your free testosterone.
But as a general rule, with 96% is bounded anyway.
You can have a twin brother, same exact testosterone levels. Let's just say in this case, there were 1,000. But he has a sexual hormone globulin of 5, and you have one of 80, then he's going to probably have a free testosterone of 30 plus. You're probably going to have one of 10 under. Right. So we like to call total testosterone the money you have in the bank. Free testosterone is the money you have to spend right now.
Cash available.
Like the money you can use to move around. So the one that your brain needs and your physical muscle tissue needs is the bioavailable, the free testosterone. The bioavailable is unnecessary. It's measuring the albumin against the sexual hormone globulin. It's an unnecessary measurement. What you need to know is total is the amount of money you have in the bank. Free testosterone is the one that you have
cash in your pocket.
And that's the one that most people have very low.
Right.
All right. That was depressing.
So,
it's funny because it's funny.
It's a fix.
It's funny because
look, I got on testosterone at your age, and I've never come off, and I don't plan to go off. One thing that I would add on there, which we can't make any medical recommendations because we're not physicians, This is only for research purposes and for just our personal, we're just recommending what we do. So our doctor is big on using testosterone when the clinical signs and symptoms are there. And additionally, a microdose of daily Cialis, anywhere from 2.5 to 5, or even 10 milligrams, because it's a vasodilator. So see it like an internal massage. You're dilating the blood vessels. So it not only improves erections, that's one of the minimal things that it does. It actually improves cardiac output of blood flow. So heart health improves, brain improves because you're getting better blood flow to the brain. Your cardiac C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory protein that when it comes out high, it increases your chances of heart disease. It helps to decrease that. If there's inflammation of the prostate for prostatitis, it decreases inflammation. Yeah. It creates microcirculation for working out. So you get better blood flow to the muscle, to the tissues you've actually broken down from the workout. It has a gazillion benefits.
Yeah. So the joke around, the biohackers and, the professionals, the high professionals that do this is that our water supply should be spiked with both metformin and Cialis, right? You know how doctors will prescribe you, they'll prescribe you aspirin for heart health function. What they should be prescribing is microdoses of Cialis, which is far better. I've never, thankfully, I never had ED issues whatsoever. And I take daily doses of the Cialis, microdoses every other day because it works for me. Every other day works for me. But it's definitely much more of a longevity medication rather than an actual performance medication. So if you're still having issues with that, definitely look into
a doctor doses. That can get you a daily dose of Cialis. We'll do
microdoses, very minimal dose, 5 milligrams.
Microdoses, yeah. And by the way, we talked offline about, a few guys in Europe, and that's where I'm going to ask you right now. For a guy that's listening to us and, he's a regular guy, he's not like wealthy or whatever, what would you suggest? Maybe not medical advice, whatever, but from your experience in Europe, where should a regular guy, earning like 900 euros and he can spend like 200 euros per month for upping up his testosterone. Where should he look?
So we have a very good friend of ours that has probably, I would say, the best clinic when it comes to
Europe.
Because, I think when we talked offline about this, it's not, you can find a clinic that's going to give you the medications, right? Like almost a monkey can give you a result, right? But I think that you have to align yourself with a company that really has a good philosophy behind the reason why you're doing this. Because guess what? There's a big separation between the business and the health aspect of this industry, right? And there are companies that have sales departments, right? What do you think they're focused on? Do you think they're focused on your health, or do you think they're focused on sales, right? So you have to align yourself with people that are into this because they like it, they love it, they see the end goal, and they focus on your longevity and your health rather than just a sale, right? So one of those companies is Balance My Hormones in Europe. They're, the owner is
Michael Cox is the owner, plus I think it's Chris, right? The business partner. He had ED as well.
Yeah.
So it's
really nice guy.
When we have clients that go to Europe and they lose their medication or something, we have them. This is the clinic to go to. In fact, on the podcast with Stephen Davos, some guy from South Africa reached out to me because he was like $10,000 in with a doctor that was just terrible. Like, he told me the protocol and I was like, let me get you in touch with him. I got him in touch with Michael, and all of a sudden he found a doctor for him in South Africa.
Yeah. So if anybody that's watching this for your listeners, if they're interested, just have us send us an email,
and we'll get you an introduction.
And we'll get you an introduction with them, and then they can take care of you in Europe.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Balance My Hormones.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Everything will be linked down below. Your email, basically, so that they can,
Yeah, they could email us.
Yeah, that's great.
Our emails are very easy. Carlos or Michael at medicalhealthinstitute.com.
Right there.
All right. I like that. Sometimes, I find people and they have some peculiar, weird email address. That's, you know, many numbers and many signs. You know.
Ours is just long. That's all it is.
Yeah. All right. So we are approaching the end of the chat, and I wanted to ask you about you. I see you have a passion. So that's something that you cannot hide. So nor can you really, you know, fake it, I think, because passion, you can see it in the voice, in the energy, and you have it. You both have it. It's pretty obvious to me. And what are your goals for the next 10 years? Because, you know, problems will keep arising for men. Testosterone will keep dropping. What are your goals?
Yeah. So I'm going to speak for me. And we have very similar, I mean, part of, you know, staying up till 10 o'clock at night, you know, when we stop working the machine, then you have to get into the creative portion of your business, right? Because work is work, but then how do you create? How do you innovate? What's the next step? But, you know, how do you think about your clients? Like what would they like as an experience? And those are the creative moments that we kind of brainstorm on. For me, I think, you know, we're pounding on the tables about this EDC stuff and the ratio and younger men suffering from this, because I think that, you know, thinking as a population as a whole, I think this issue is really emasculating men. And so we're losing a lot of leaders. You know, I'm not a feminist in any sort of way or believe in, you know, there's a specific role or not, but I think that as men, we have a circle of influence. It's just the way that we're built. And I think that, you know, now with technology, you know, all these dating apps, like guys are now so protected from taking risks, right? Because now they don't even have to approach a woman anymore. They could do it online and they can eliminate a lot of the failure rate, right? And so I think that it's just like a vicious circle, and I think it's eliminating a lot of really potential leaders that we should have, right? I mean, a boy is gonna need a father, right? And a mother too, and a father needs to be a father. So I think that it's a subject that's really emasculating men. So we're pounding on the table about this. You know, COVID just happened. So we're also pounding on the table for people to take their health seriously, right? Because it is an issue. You know, it puts a pressure on our economic system as well. And when it comes to the subject of young men and their fertility, we're very excited because we're actually in the process of working with Dr. Swan about running clinical trials with the University of Oxford and proving how you can actually because the biggest thing is this: young men who have low testosterone and low fertility rates don't want to get on testosterone because testosterone depletes your fertility even more, right? That's what the medical
and causes premature ejaculation.
Right. So the medical institution for the last 30 years, this has been the consensus, and through many little side kind of mad scientist research projects, Michael came up with a way that he proved that this is not a fact, that you can actually be on testosterone therapy, get all the benefits of testosterone therapy if your testosterone is really low, like yours, for example. So you don't have to live with that. You don't have to suffer with that. And at the same time, you don't have to sacrifice your fertility at the same time. And so we've proven that, and we're now into, you know, running clinical trials about it so we can bring it on to, you know, change the medical consensus, not only on just fertility and testosterone, but testosterone as a whole, right? I mean, we still get clients that call us, oh, I'm scared because my cardiologist told me that my heart is going to explode on testosterone. It's like, what? No. Right. So that's my goal.
Or the urologist telling them that it's going to cause prostate cancer, which that has been completely debunked, and we know that it's
exactly. And I think, guys, it was a Greek scientist that debunked the prostate cancer myth.
Dr. Charles Huggins.
Right.
He was an American urologist that basically did a study on one individual who already had prostate cancer, and that when given testosterone appeared to get worse.
Of course.
And then when given estrogen appeared to get better, because at that time we didn't have the PSA test, which we came out with that, I think in the 60s, or I forgot what time, but it was way before, and we didn't really have a valuable measurement for PSA. So that's been completely debunked, that it does not cause testosterone. However, If there is already underlying condition, that's why you need to get tested by the right doctor who understands what to test for, because believe it or not, we've seen tests where they don't measure the PSA. And that's like bringing your car in for, a tune-up. They basically change the tires, but don't check if the bulbs, the nut bulbs are on the wheel. So when you leave, your wheels can come off. So it's prescribing testosterone in a way that we call it's medical malpractice. You need to test the prostate, because if there is an issue, then you need to address that issue prior to getting on testosterone therapy.
It seems to me that we probably need the secret is to find the proper physician or the expert.
And a physician who is not stuck on numbers, who is willing to understand you and go off how you feel, because not necessarily what the numbers show is what you feel. They call it the bell curve. Most people feel good between like 800, 1200, but you have guys that at 600 feel fantastic. And we just tell them, stay as you are. Let's leave everything. There's no need to increase or do anything because you're responding well. And then we have guys like us that we're on the upper end and we need to run higher levels because we have an issue with estrogen dominance, sexual hormone globulin issues. So we got to run higher doses to get the same benefit as a person who doesn't have that issue. So you have to work with a functional physician who's open-minded and is not stuck to the textbook ways, because this keeps evolving and changing by the day.
Yeah, first of all, you need to find a doctor who not only has experience doing this, but if it was me looking for a doctor, I'd be looking for a doctor who's on testosterone therapy, 100%. Meaning that he himself takes the medication that he's going to recommend to me. Because if he's not taking it, I would tell you, if it was me as a personal friend, find one that does. Two, you have to understand also that and this is a very sad thing, right? This is not a good thing. The vast majority of doctors, right? And I'm talking about endocrinologists, urologists, all these guys, their continuing education, you got to think about like how fast is technology moving? Right? How fast is information moving? We're learning this quick, right? Yet you got endocrinologists and urologists sticking to protocols that are 25 years old, right? And so their continuing education, if there's any, usually comes from pharmaceutical marketing material. Oh yeah, this new medication does this, but they don't understand the mechanics. They don't get really into health education. And so I would find a progressive doctor, number one, who's on testosterone therapy himself.
Who's had low T himself. That's why he gets on testosterone, so he really understands it. The analogy I give for that is like you're going to go get your driver's license and you go to a doctor, a driver that knows the book inside out, knows absolutely where every segment and chapter is, but has never gotten behind the wheel. How are you supposed to learn how to drive from a guy that understands the manual? It's impossible. You don't have any experience. That's where you become very box-minded, and they're not willing to step outside of the box because all they know is that manual. They don't have the experience.
Or listen, it's also, I'm going to give you a very direct example. I'm not going to mention his name to protect his identity, but we're lucky to have more than 20 different medical practitioners who are under care with us. Right? They're under care not only with us, but obviously with our doctor. And one of these individuals is a very accomplished, with all the accolades, a very accomplished cardiologist. Okay. He started treatment with us a couple of years ago. Completely changed his life. Completely changed his life. Right? Early though, so, obviously we built a relationship with him and he was a good friend with our doctor. Our doctor said, hey, we would love a review. Like we would love a review, not to pump our own horn, but to communicate to other people that can benefit from this, that this is not the evil that you think it is, right? And you know what he said? He said, listen, I love you guys. You guys have changed my life, no doubt about it. I will never hide that. But I can't come out and say that because the community that I'm in, the academic environment that I'm in, they're so indoctrinated that testosterone is going to cause a heart attack, that my reputation will be put on the line if I come out of the closet, right? And so if he comes out of the closet saying, hey, I'm on testosterone therapy and I'm one of the leading cardiologists of this nation, it was like they were going to crucify him, right? This was a couple of years ago. Now, it's been so much time, and now there's more evidence coming out that he's like, listen, whatever you guys need, I will scream it out and post it on your website, right? But it just gives you a little bit of an insight into the medical community, the academic community, and how that kind of influences sort of the education and the knowledge that is put out there when a guy goes into this doctor's office, a PCP or a functional doctor, and says, hey, I would like to look into testosterone. Oh, no. Testosterone is going to make your heart explode.
Which we know is the other way around. If you have low testosterone, your chances of having a heart attack or heart disease increases.
Right. Or the other way around, actually, not being on testosterone can produce a more aggressive form of prostate cancer, because the prostate actually looks for testosterone, kind of like the flower looks for the bee to be pollinated. And it's a very interesting dynamic. So for all you listeners, find a doctor. And, we actually built out an email. If you're interested, what are some of the questions that you should be asking your doctor when interested about testosterone? And it's funny because we recently had a guy, he called Michael. Michael said, hey, I'm going to send you this email and I want you to use it on your doctor on your next visit. And the guy actually did it. And he went through every single question, and his doctor was giving him the obvious responses. Oh, no, it's going to cause prostate cancer. Can you show me the study that says that? Because this study from PubMed says the opposite. So the guy's like, it'll make your heart, it'll give you a stroke. Well, this study says da. So by the end of the meeting, the guy's doctor was like, no, I guess you can do testosterone therapy, right? So, it's a tricky subject, but if your listeners are interested, they're more than welcome to contact us, and we'll help them work through the noise.
Yes. Thank you. I'll add your email, and this is something, a dream of mine. I was thinking of doing, calling doctors or going to doctors and doing in-field videos, asking them questions, but it is a bit tricky legally. But yeah, thank you. It was in my mind to do something like that here in Greece, and probably you are going to give me a few ideas on how to do that. So since we are ending, and I loved your enthusiasm, and I think people probably will search to find more about you, where people can find you.
Just go to our website, www.medicalhealthinstitute, or you can give them our emails. It's either Carlos or Michael at Medical Health Institute. Look us up. We have a bunch of videos online that also, they're very educational and give you the reasons why you should be doing this. Because if your only goal is to have a nice looking physique, hey, I applaud that. We have really high fitness goals. We have really good standards, really high standards for that. And, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look great, but if that's the only reason you're doing it, I think you're missing out, right? I think you're not doing it for the right reasons, because there's so much more. Again, aligning yourself with a company that has that philosophy is important. So feel free to check us out, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll be happy to point you in the right direction.
Sounds good. So please stay for a minute to offline after the recording. So people, go find the guys, the brothers from the Medical Health Institute, Carlos and Michael, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. I know we're long-winded.
No, you are the kind of guys that I'm really admiring, because you have passion, and passion, I think, is something that it's connected with testosterone. I would say, and I love the energy, and I think people have to talk about these matters because they matter. And I have my experience. Other young people have their experience, young men, and I think people have to go to get out of their closets and start talking about it. Yes. I think you two guys, you're doing a terrific job about it, and I'm very pleased that you came, and I hope that you keep doing this forever, and we make men again. I would say.
Yes, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Thank you. Thank you for having this channel, because it's just another outlet, right? We need more outlets. So good job on that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.